Welcome. I was just told it's 10:01. Sorry, we're 1 minute late. This is Kat Trelinos. And if we haven't met, I am the president, CEO, and visionary of Kat's Home Chat, as well as Tada by Kat, Next Level Staging and Design. And we welcome you today. On today's episode, I'm so super excited to have a beautiful, wonderful guest. And I'm going to introduce her in a second. But if you've ever homeschooled, if you've ever thought of homeschooling, if you were thrown into homeschooling because of COVID, maybe now you're just partially homeschooling, or you know somebody, you want to watch this episode. It's going to be broadcast in 48 hours on YouTube, so you can post questions on YouTube. You can post questions here if you see it. Share it with someone who needs to know, and we are happy to be able to share with you and enrich lives today. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my beautiful guest, Jen, who happens to be my beautiful daughter-in-law and mother of my 3 grandchildren as well. And I'm not going to steal your thunder, Jen. Tell the viewers out there a little bit about you, how you got into the education business. What kind of was your driving factor or passion to want to go and get your master's in education and teach in the school system for 5 years? And then, of course, we're going to segue into the homeschooling that you've done for many, many, many years. So welcome, and you've got the mic.
Hi. So, I think schooling or teaching was something that I've always wanted to do. In fact, my mom found a journal of mine from when I was like 9 years old, and I wrote that I wanted to be a teacher when I grew up. Yeah, so it's definitely something that I always wanted to do. I was an older sister, and so of course we played school at home, and I love being with kids. I love working with kids. I love the art of teaching somebody something new, and that kind of that was a no-brainer for me. I went to school intending on being a teacher. So I got my undergraduate in sociology at UCSB, and then I transitioned into their master's and credential program there.
Yes. In fact, you were accepted in a speed program, right? In advance. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I think
she's pretty smart, guys. So.
I think, it was 16 months, and it was the credential and then the master's.
Wonderful. And how long have you been homeschooling? I know, Lily's going to be 11, right?
Yeah. So I've been homeschooling all along, so about 6 years. And yeah, it's definitely been a learning process for us.
Awesome. And age is 11, 7, and 9. Oh, yeah, 11. Yeah. So we're going to get into that, guys, because I know, my kids are grown. I've got, beautiful grandchildren, 4 beautiful grandchildren, but it's a challenge, and I know many young mothers, are challenged and have been challenged with the whole being thrown into it with COVID. Is how do you navigate through tiered teaching with the multiple ages? And we're going to get into that, but I want to dive first, Jen, into the misnomers. This is one thing that really, when you and I were having a conversation, was kind of eye-opening to me, which is, what spawned the idea of, gosh, Jen has a lot to share that I think people need to know. And that is the misnomers between the traditional classroom setting versus how you homeschool. And I just feel that many parents are, kind of stuck on that when they're trying to create the homeschooling environment. Tell us your thoughts on that, Jen.
Yeah, so I think you briefly said it before, but I taught in a public school for 5 years. And so I can really see the difference between what it's like to teach in that setting, what it's like to homeschool. And we heard it early on that homeschool isn't schooling at home, or isn't the classroom at home. And there's such a difference there. And so I think that's a huge misnomer, is that you feel like you have to set up this classroom, or you need tons of space. And really, you just need a seat and a surface and, some of your curriculum, pencil and paper. And that's really all you need to homeschool. And it doesn't have to be a formal setting. You don't have to, have it broken down like a school day would be. And in that way, it doesn't take as long. So we can be done with school in 4 hours. And when they were younger, we were done with school with far less time. So I thought that was definitely for me as a school classroom teacher, that was a huge thing for me, that we didn't have to spend an entire day doing school, and getting just as much, if not more in, because it's, one-on-one or one-on-three kind of.
Yes, that's a key point. As you were saying that it made me realize, well, of course, you're taking 25, 30 kids in a class.
Totally.
It's going to take exponentially longer. So now you've got one-on-one, one-on-three,
Totally.
even if they are varying ages. That coupled with, I want to talk a little bit about, yes, there's tools, there's online digital tools, and no matter where you're watching in the world, in the country, they source and give you some curriculum online, right? But I love the fact that, talk a little bit about how school outside the classroom, like where you take the kids out and identify nature, or that's teaching, that's hands-on teaching, right?
I'll talk about some more misnomers too, but one of the things that we love to do is camp. And so we have an RV or trailer, a travel trailer, and we take it on the road, and we can do homeschool on the road. And so we visited Mount Rushmore, and this year in our curriculum, we're learning about U.S. history. So last summer we visited Mount Rushmore and some of the national parks, and it's just a beautiful thing for them to learn about it, but also see it firsthand and have that experience. And we can do that all the time, whether it's, we're learning about birds, we can go look for birds, or we can go on a nature walk, or, so much of life.
Absolutely. And even if you don't have access to go out to Mount Rushmore or what have you,
right.
You've got a backyard or a porch or a corner store, identify fruits. There's so many different ways, right? No matter what your life and lifestyle is, that you can educate in a real world sense, hands-on real world sense, not being regimented to the curriculum of just a book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we were talking about before is that, how you were saying a lot of people were pushed into homeschooling during COVID and everything. I think a huge misnomer as far as that's concerned is that you have to be an expert to teach. And you and I were kind of talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of, once you start homeschooling, you grow with, not only do you grow with your kiddo, but there are just so many resources, as you say, out there where you can find more information on things these days, and the curriculum provides you with teacher talk and things like that, where you don't feel as, I guess,
isolated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. And I want to talk about that in the different age groups, particularly that you have, maybe preteen, older grade school, and even kindergarten, because I know that your youngest you started in kindergarten, or actually even earlier. So let's talk about, I know it's a little bit probably still on the misnomers. Maybe it was kind of an aha for me when we were talking, Jen, is how, and this is not to put down the school system or teachers. We love you, teachers out there, whether you're home teachers or, school teachers, we love you and appreciate you. But unfortunately, in the school system, just the way it's set up for so many one teacher to so many students, there's an agenda and a curriculum. And I know, I had a educationally challenged child that, the system wanted to push them through, and they didn't know how to teach, visually, in other ways that would,
right.
Because every student doesn't learn the same.
Absolutely.
Right, Jen? So what happens in the school? I know you were with the younger kiddos, but kindergarten and first grade, was it? Yes. But I think even as you advance into the higher grade levels, the agenda and the school system and the monetary composition and all of that lends itself to pushing them ahead.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit for our viewers?
From my perspective as a public school teacher, yes. So I do agree with you. I think that is definitely It's definitely something that happens, that can happen. I know there are teachers out there who are doing their absolute best to get the kiddos into the programs that they need to be in order to help them throughout the school year.
Yes.
You know, again, you're one teacher with, I think I had 32 students my last year teaching,
Wow.
and I was the only one in there. So
Oh, wow. No teacher's aid or anything?
I
Wow.
did not have a teacher's aid, and you know, you do the absolute best that you can, and because really you love your students. But I think for, if I transition that into homeschooling, then, you know, I Adam and I joke because he's like, "What grade are the kids in?" We don't really give them a grade
Equate.
level.
Ah.
Yeah, and so I tell them what grade they're in because, you know, I don't want them to be caught off guard in public when somebody says, "What grade are you in?" But really, what we're doing is we're teaching, and we're, you know, they incrementally, and so Lily might be learning pre-algebra next year, and she's only 11. So
Okay, and so I have to interject here because these are my beautiful grandchildren as well. Now, my never to be so humble, of course, comment is that they have fabulous genes, which they do. I'm part of it being glamour, but these two were pretty brilliant. So we had some good genes going on. However, I strongly, and I believe in my heart, that the homeschooling that Jen and Adam have implemented has accelerated. I've seen it, you know, since day one, and they are so advanced. It's mind-boggling, and I guess that's one of the reasons, Jen, that propelled me to want to have you on the show, because I really believe the power of what you guys have been doing has really advanced the children.
It's kind of that slow and steady wins the race, you know, where
oh my gosh, we just watched Zig Ziglar. Yeah, it's the steps to success, not the elevator. Slow and steady. I love it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what I was going to say is that it doesn't seem scary. You know, she doesn't know she's going to be doing pre-algebra next year, or possibly doing pre-algebra next year, but it's that she's just been learning along the way, and we've been kind of learning with her, and or being reminded of things with her, and with all of the kids, you know, and it's fun for us as well. I say us because my husband Adam, he you know, he'll help, and he does the math, he grades the math, and things like that. It's our whole family's involved in this.
Okay, so and I want to stop you right there, because I know, you know, I've tried to look at the new math, you know, with my granddaughter Tanya and Elizabeth. You know, I'm like,
right,
wow, you know. So if you're like me and others, and you know, you don't have a support system that can kind of fill in that gap of maybe that's your weaker spot now, again, you know, where would you go? Where would you go, Jen? If, let's say, you didn't have, you know, support system, where would you go when your mind starts getting pickled over new math, let alone pre-algebra?
Right. So for us, we have a curriculum. So I have a teacher's handbook that I can look in, and I can learn more about things that I might not know. You can go to the curriculum webpage and, you know, ask them questions. Most of these curriculum companies are small, and you can get an email from them.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
You know,
so in case folks don't know, Jen, what that is, and again, you know, maybe I'm asking questions that don't make sense because I don't homeschool, but is that a generic, not just a school district? Is there a particular website you would recommend? You said a curriculum website.
So that's the beauty. That's another beauty of homeschool, is that you get to choose the curriculum that you want to teach. So Adam and I, we went to a convention, a homeschool convention, and you can take classes and you can learn about different curriculums. And then they have a huge showroom of all the different companies and curriculum, not all, but a lot of them. And you just go up to them and you can ask questions and learn more about the curriculum and just see if that's the right fit for you. And that's actually how we found our math. We found our math through one of the classes. We sat through it. He taught the lesson as if he were teaching a student.
Wow.
And it was very hands-on, and we love that. That was one of the things that we really were looking for with the math, is we wanted to connect it. We wanted a context for what they were doing, and this math really did a great job. We do math UC.
What's it called?
It's called Math U letter C.
UC, Math UC. Okay.
UC.
So guys, check that out. My son and daughter-in-law, if you can't tell, they're very detailed and they research things to find out, what's a good fit that may or may not be a good fit for you and your family. Now, I'm assuming, Jen, that Math UC, is that a broad platform that you could teach multiple ages in a family? Should you have multiple kids?
Yes. So once we decided on that math and once we started it, we loved it. And so it was an easy fit every year or every time they finish, a curriculum year or maybe just that packet, they move on to the next one. And it's pretty simple once you get that kind of established.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if this was on our bullet point, but I know we talked about it conversationally, and I know other folks do that, like, well, wow, how do the kids socialize? How do they get socialized being, and I have to interject right here, having spent some recent time with my grandkids, very blessed to have done so, that they are in such synchronicity.
They really are.
Amazing. Their siblings are related, but it's beyond that. I don't even have time to go into all of the detail because there's a boy and two girls and the age differences, but from tea party to cowboy, enmeshing and synchronicity that's mind-blowing.
Right.
So how would you answer that, Jen, for folks that said, oh, well, gosh, how do you socialize them?
Right. I think, that's definitely under the misnomers is people don't think that I mean, honestly, that's one of two main responses that we get when we say that we homeschool is, how do you socialize them? And people are genuinely wanting to know. And I mean, I just have to say that they've been in all types of things, whether it was church, Sunday school, and part of, a choir, they have done sports, they've done
horseback riding, soon to be karate, music lessons, voice lessons.
Yes. And then not to mention they have a bunch of little friends and have over the years. So they get a ton of socialization. And I think it also depends too on what your view of socialization is. For us, school is school. We're not necessarily socializing in school. It's our extracurricular activities that creates that socialization. And it's also how, we teach them, look into somebody's eyes, ask them questions, be a good listener, those type of things that are just skills that they just need to know in general.
So I love that, Jen. I really love that because I personally believe that, unfortunately, some parents have, with busy lives and both parents working and all of that,
definitely
left the school up to have the responsibility of socializing them.
Right.
And so I love that, because those are things that you can and have, taught them on instead of the hard way of, so-and-so's mean to me and they're ganging up, having to navigate through, that kind of thing, relational thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Before we get off misnomers, is there anything else, Jen, that's top of mind for you that we haven't covered on that?
I think one of the things that somebody has, or not somebody, but generally people say is, both to Adam and I, is, you homeschool, you must have the patience of a saint or whatever. And that, while that's a kind comment, it's sort of, I don't know, it discounts the fact that I'm not all that patient. I'm learning to be patient, but
so what has helped you harness that patience, the patience needed to do homeschooling? What do you think through the years?
Well, I think it's just, I guess, self-control, and also teaching my kids to have respect for others, which helps with, patience as well. So we learn together, it's like when somebody says, oh, your kids are so well behaved. Well, there was a lot of work put into that beforehand and to
get them there.
students that are well behaved or kids
And,
that are well behaved.
and I want to say routine also. I mean, I was so impressed in our recent visit when, number one, they use their inside voices. I didn't even know they were up. They've been, I can see they were trained to do that. And secondly, they had, one of them was to empty the dishwasher. The little one was to feed the dogs. And I don't know what the other is, but they had their list of things that they're to do before you all even get up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that bringing that into homeschool, that's a huge thing, because now that they're at a level where they can do independent work, obviously my youngest, he's not doing quite the independent work that the girls are doing, but they can get up, and they get up and they do their math. So we usually work on a math packet for a whole week. So after the first day, it's review. So they can do their math pages in the morning. They do reading in the morning.
While you're doing something else, or you're organizing for the next.
Exactly. While I'm getting ready, or I'm reading myself, or.
So teaching them independence, discipline, social skills, all of that I think is critical, as opposed to get in your seat, cheeks in the seat. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Which that's important too, but it's different. And I think just so much richer and broader. But back to the topic of patience of a saint, that took organization, pre-thinking, having them organized so that you can organize your day, and get the best from and out of them. It's prep, right? And painting, it's the prep work,
Yeah, and it's the amount of time you're sitting there. It's not taxing. I mean, of course it can be. You might be working through something and they might not be getting it, and that can be frustrating for everybody. But it's not a taxing day. To where you're going to lose your patience, or it's going to, you haven't been fed.
Because you don't have to push through that, 30 minutes, and then you've got to do this, and then you've got to do that. So you take a break, you take a breathing, you take a break. So that flexibility, that's amazing.
Yeah. And you say, we're going to work on this for another 10 minutes, and then we're going to come and revisit this tomorrow, and we'll revisit this until you get it, and that's also another beauty of homeschooling, that you can work on something. You can take some time and work on something they might be struggling with and give it more time.
I love that, because we're all human beings with different human dynamics, even as adults,
Right.
Sometimes, I'm just going to shut this down and go away from it, and then come back, You don't overtax the, the frustration level. Yeah.
Go run
I love
outside,
that.
take a 10-minute break, go run outside for a little bit, and we'll come back and refocus.
Right. So on that, do you schedule that, like they do in schools, recess time, or, stretch time, play time? Is that an integration, as long as the weather's good?
Yeah. So what we do is we do our independent work, and then we create longer breaks. And so there's an hour of, just go play time. And then we'll revisit school, and then we'll work on it for a couple more hours, and then we have lunch, and then they can do something after that. So the day I don't like sitting down and just pushing through our homeschool day. We really break it up into sections, and that also allows me to get things done that I need to get done around the house as well.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's move into tiered age teaching, and I know some of it, is going to kind of cross over to what we've done. But is there anything you want to share in terms of with folks who may have, multiple ages, and what is a couple of tips that you would share with our viewers on how to navigate through, let's say a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old?
Definitely. So when we went to our convention, I'm a huge advocate of going to one of the homeschool conventions. They're encouraging, they're inspiring. But one of the things that somebody said to us was that homeschooling with multiple ages is like a school bus with different stops. So you're all kind of heading in the same direction. You're going home, but everyone kind of is being dropped off at a different place. And that's kind of the same thing with school, is that, for example, this year we're doing U.S. history. So we're doing state reports, and which is just a report on the state. And for us, we do it together. We all learn about the state together. We figure out the state bird and the flower, and we learn about the motto and the seal and kind of the history behind all of that. And we all three of them do the same thing where they cut it out, they paste it in, they write the motto, they write the state capital. For Ezekiel, that's it. That's what he does. The girls, as we're learning about it, they are writing facts down about the state. And so they have to, use sentence structure, and they have to use proper grammar and practice that right now. Whereas Ezekiel, he can kind of stop there and just listen. And so it's tailored. You're doing the same thing, but it's just tailored to their ability. And that's
wonderful.
The girls are doing the same writing program, but because Ella's younger, I don't expect the same type of writing and the same, I guess, detail that I would expect from Lily, because she's been doing it longer. So in that sense, it's really nice because you just tailor in that moment. There are some things like math where we're not all doing the same thing. And
sure.
In that way, the girls might be working on something independently, and I'm just working one-on-one with Ezekiel. And then when they need my help independently, then he's doing something not independent. When they're needing my help, then he's working on something independently. And so that's kind of how we get.
I love that. So that's a perfect, example of, how you can streamline and maximize those tiered aging, kiddos that you're teaching. Right. And it makes sense now too. It's just a natural symbiotic movement for the younger kids to be elevated, right?
Right.
Because you're not just limiting them. Okay, cut out a picture and here's it's kind of, synergistically weaving, how can you not elevate your learning? How could the little one not elevate their learning?
Right.
Because of this, especially in something like history. Yeah. That's genius. Yeah, that's wonderful. So how, Jen, with 3 kiddos, 11 and younger, and a husband and a house and everything, how do you balance, your personal life? What would you like to share with our viewers on how you balance your personal life when you're full-time, full-time, which again, it's not 8 hours at school, but, full-time educator. How do you balance?
Well, I think, like you said before, we definitely have a schedule. We have a routine, and we know what we're doing. I block out. I have I have a plan book right here, and this is
okay.
The guide for me. We don't necessarily follow it to the T, but I know what we're doing in each day, and it's just a matter of getting those things done. So let's say we have a dentist appointment in the middle of the day, or I have a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day. We can stop doing school because we have a checklist basically, and then we just insert that time in somewhere else.
So I love the flexibility of it.
Yes.
Years ago, Adam knows, I worked for AT&T Corporation, and I worked virtual. And the beauty of that is I could go to a little, Easter parade at their school, or a dress up Halloween or whatever in the middle of the day. I might, just choose to do my Excel report, at 10 o'clock at night, but I could, I could. So it sounds to me like you really can have the best of both worlds because of the flexibility.
Absolutely. It's very flexible. And also Adam works from home. So of course that's another added bonus, because I do have the leisure to go out and get things done, and the kids can stay here. And I know that that's not the case for everybody. So I do know that the homeschool community, there are so many things that you can get involved in. This is kind of part of socialization. There are cohorts, there are, you can join Facebook groups and learn about activities that are happening in your community for homeschool students. A lot of colleges put on programs for homeschool students. So I think that there's just so much out there. And once you do meet people in the homeschool community, you can kind of rely on them for help with childcare, or, the people, I've seen tons of people do swaps where, they might have the kids for a couple of hours on a Tuesday, but then in return they take someone else's kids for, some time on another day. And so
I love that. So guys, if you didn't hear that, because, not everybody has, I raised 3 kids with really no family support. And it's just a super blessing if you do have support. I know you've got your parents, but they're, not close. So that's awesome. Yeah. To get involved with homeschooling groups, local groups, et cetera, and be a resource for each other, to help balance your time. Well, speaking of time, we are right at a little bit 10:32, and what great information. Thank you so much, Jen, for I know you had to get up early where you're at in the country a little bit earlier, and I thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. I know this was not, as you said, in your wheelhouse to be on camera, but I really feel that folks who need to hear this will need to hear this. And I'm so happy that you're able to share and help to enrich, even if it's one person's life. And if you're watching this and you have a need or someone else, please share it and pass it on to someone who could benefit from it. You can go to our YouTube channel, Tada by Kat, TADABYKAT, and there will be a replay. You can post questions. I can't see because we're streaming on 2 sites right now, so I can't see if there are questions, but if there were, we'll go back and address them. And you can also post questions on our YouTube channel. We upload a new guest that has wonderful information to share every week, unless have to do a replay, and then you'll get a repeat. And I just want to tell you, as always, stay positive, stay hopeful, and stay connected. And thank you so much for connecting with me and Jen today. And thank you, Jen, so much for being my guest. It was a privilege and a joy. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks, Jen. See if I can hit the right button here.